Hello, everybody. Welcome to SportsBeat on WOUB. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Jamey Spears, your host for today, and joining me at the desk,
Reece Merkel,
Zwiezinski,
Simon Lupfer,
and Luke Schmitt.
We have a full show for you guys today. Let's take a glance at today's topics. Starting with volleyball's doubleheader, where they swept Miami in the Battle of the Bricks, followed by soccer producing another low-scoring weekend. Then we cover football's preview against Northern Illinois, before jumping into our Read and React segment covering the biggest headlines in sports. Then finally ending with the pro and college football upset watch and our weekly awards. SportsBeat starts right now. Welcome back to the table, everybody. First, we have to talk about Ohio volleyball, and it feels like they found their confidence as they swept Miami, Ohio this past weekend. Simon, how did they get it done?
All right. Second week in a row, we're talking about a Bobcats volleyball win on this show. Feels pretty good. Especially when it is a sweep in the Battle of the Bricks. The Bobcats took both matches against the Miami Redhawks on Friday and Saturday. Game one, 3-0 on Friday. This was the team's best hitting performance of the season from an efficiency standpoint. They hit .339, and we'll talk about game two and how that's important later. But, man, defense in this game was huge for the Bobcats. Right off the bat, they did not give up more than 19 points in a set in this match. And if you want to win a game in straight sets, that is how you do it. 4 Bobcats had a block assist, and Sierra Evans had a solo block, and Kendall Hickey and Caroline Curran both combined for 21 digs. What stuck out to me about this game is just, man, this team is fighting, and they want to keep that ball alive. They want to give their offense a chance. The offense really never wavered all weekend, and the defense came up huge in this game. But Kendall White, we'll talk about her some more. 46 out of 49 assists for Ohio in this game. She was named MAC Player of the Week, and I have so much more to say about her, but that is how they got it done on Friday. Moving on to Saturday, they take this one in 4 sets, 3-1. And this was their second best hitting performance of the season from an efficiency standpoint. They hit .272 in this match. So why is this important? Why are we talking about this? Well, we're seeing this team come together as a unit, and they are improving offensively hugely. The only set they dropped all weekend, they scored 25 points in. They lost it in overtime. So this has been what we've talked about at the table for the last couple of weeks, right? How they were sitting outside as low as 319th in the nation. And they've climbed now to 295th, which, listen, it's not great. It's not good by any means, but that is over a 30. That's almost a 30 rank climb, right? Just from one weekend. So there are changes, there are adjustments being made, and this is signs of improvement from the offense. But Kendall White, we're going to talk about her all show if we could, but 48 out of 55 assists in this one, just coming off of that 46 out of 49 game. And she had a double-double in this one, too, 19 digs, which was the team high. So to just harp on her a little bit, I don't think we can overstate how much of an impact Kendall White has had on this team, especially in this little win streak. Jamey, I don't know if you would agree. You were at the game. And
yeah, I feel like Kendall White is that person that needed to step up for OU. She's the senior on the team, and it seems like this is the most complete Bobcats team we've seen probably all year. They've won 3 in a row. And Simon, just to kind of harp on that, like Kendall White, is she the player that OU needs to lean on in these last couple of weeks?
I feel like the answer has to be yes. The thing about Kendall White and the position she's playing is she's not getting all these points credited to her on the score sheet, right? But she is generating this offense for the Bobcats, and none of these points are happening if she is not there. Over 90% of the team's assists are coming from one person, so I feel like there has to be a lot of emphasis to just rely on Kendall White as kind of the rock and the foundation for this team.
And talking about, points and wins, Simon, last week on the show I talked about how after that Kent State win last Tuesday, it was kind of in their hands to build off of that and get a string of wins back-to-back, which is something they haven't been able to do in a minute this season. So that's why I think this Miami game is so crucial to where they are right now as a team and in this season, because this is a big, I think this is a big morale booster for them. This is the first time they're stringing some wins together since August and September. And like you said, Kendall White played great. This team is really kind of turned it around. I know you said they jumped up the ranks just a little bit, but that little bit makes a lot of difference when this team has struggled a lot this season.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, to think about White is a transfer student, came from Kent State, and she showed some signs early, I think, in the beginning of the season. We mentioned her a few times on this show, but, man, in the last couple of weeks, she has really turned it on for this team. And to your point, these 3 wins in a row that we're talking about in this win streak that they're looking to continue going into next weekend, that would not have happened if it weren't for her.
Mm-hmm. I feel like you also got to mention that since the game against Akron, she's had 29 or more assists per match.
Wow.
Which is just incredible. If you count the Toledo game before that, she's had more than 20 per match since September 25th, their last match against Bowling Green, where she only had 15. So, she's consistently doing it. She's got 462 assists on the season. It's incredible.
Yeah, and with these 3 MAC wins back to back to back, we kind of see Ohio volleyball tied for 5th in the MAC standings. Can we see them make a late push in this final stretch?
I don't see why not, right? I look at the standings and Ohio is only 1 game back behind Western Michigan at 4th spot, 2 games behind Toledo, 3 behind Bowling Green, and then you have undefeated Ball State at the top. But for a team that's 3-4 in the MAC, this team did not start the season very strong at all. And here they are sitting almost 500 in the league with a couple weeks to go. Anybody can beat anybody in this league, and I really do believe that, and we say that all the time. But they're right there in the mix. They've put themselves in a position to compete. I don't see why they don't make a push.
Yeah, and they have Eastern Michigan on the 16th and 17th of October. Simon, what do you have for us for that?
Yeah, so like I said, 3-4 in the MAC for the Bobcats. 2-5 are Eastern Michigan coming in. They've lost their last 2 as opposed to this win streak that Ohio's coming on. Ohio's going to rely on Kendall White. We just harped on it all the time, but not to be outdone or neglected, Bailey Blair, points leader. We have consistently mentioned her name on the show all season, and she's leading the team in kills and points, and will continue to generate that offense for the Bobcats. Ava Siefke is Eastern Michigan's key player for me. She just seems to be a wrecking crew for this team. She seems to just kind of put the team on her back in those wins, and they only have a couple conference wins, but they are by no means down and out with a couple weeks left to go in the season. So they're going to be coming in to Athens really looking to make a push, but Ohio has to replicate the formula. They have seen what it takes. Started out the season 0-4 in the conference. They are now 3-4. They know how to win, and their offense has been consistent, going all the way back to that first win last week. Their offense has been putting up consistently 25 or close to that number, even in the sets they lose. Keep generating the offense and then come together on defense. They're playing really, really solid team defense right now, and I think it's done measures for them.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting to see if Ohio can keep that momentum against Eastern Michigan on Thursday and Friday. Next up, we have OU soccer, another disappointing performance. Bobcats have had 2 games but only scored 1 goal. Luke, what was the story this past week?
Well, soccer's kind of been in that same mix of volleyball where they struggled kind of on the same level of volleyball, but whereas we saw a win with volleyball, soccer fell twice. And we'll get in depth in both these games, starting with Kent State. In the 10th minute, the game already got kind of out of their hand. Red card for OU kills them because then they have one less player at the field, and it really suppresses this offense that we've talked about on this show has really started and loses a lot of momentum. And these are the kind of mistakes that this squad really just shouldn't be making at this point in the season, because this is a team that is, in the mix. They're gritty. They're trying to win games, and getting a red card so early in the game just hurts so many of their chances to win that game. And they're just struggling right now, and they don't have a player. Not having that player against a top team in the MAC hurts, and they're still getting outshot. They can't get a lot of shots on goal. They haven't scored more than a goal in a game since August 28th against Oakland. And, we've talked for these last couple of weeks how they really just need to get back on track. But, they have 4 games left. And, it's kind of that time in the season where, we've talked all about, they can put it together, but they just haven't really been putting it together. And they only have 4 chances left to do that. And looking at that next Toledo game, this one was kind of a shame for this team because Toledo was at the bottom of the MAC. They were below them going into this weekend and are still after this weekend. Toledo's winless in conference play, and this is an Ohio soccer team that needs every point they can get to get into that top 6 to make the MAC tournament. And it was tough. OU scored in the 26th minute, but just did not score it again. And I've harped on this every segment for soccer. Their opponents scored another late second half goal. This one in the 80th minute to put Toledo ahead. No, not ahead. This was to tie 1-1. And the big stat that I took from this that really it kind of bugged me was, OU took 11 shots in the first and 4 in the second, which is 15 total, which is great. I love that they're getting all these shots on goal, but 2 of the 4 in the second half were right after that goal from Toledo. So I think this team, and I made this point about OU last week, is this team, there's times where the lack of urgency is really present. And, OU, both soccer and football, they can get out, they can get the lead, like in that Ball State game and in this Toledo game, but then they just fall short because I think they kind of lack that urgency, and then the team gets the upper hand, and then in the end, it just doesn't go their way.
Yeah, it seems like the second half performance hasn't been there, and I feel like we've been waiting for that all season long. I know we compared this 2025 team like the 2023 team, and I just feel like that, like you said, a lack of urgency is not there. And they have 4 games left. They need to win. Probably, how many games do you think they would need to win to make the MAC tourney?
They need to win all of them. I mean, they have 4 games left, and it's a grueling 4 games. You have Buffalo, second best team in the MAC, and Buffalo has 2 great players. I noticed when I was researching this game. They have Jasmine Gerber, who has 17 goals on 47 shots this season. She's going to be a problem for Celeste Sloma. She leads the MAC in a lot of the shot categories. And another just true baller for Buffalo is our goalie, Lexi Thompson, who is another great goalie in the MAC. So seeing that goalie showdown between Celeste Sloma and Lexi Thompson will be interesting. But I think this Buffalo game is going to be really tough. And we saw how Buffalo played NIU 5-0 a couple weeks ago, and that is OU's opponent after this Buffalo game. So I think this game is going to be very telling what the NIU outcome is. And with just 4 games left, it's really coming down to the wire with how much effort they can give in, and because they're really running out of time here.
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo being the second best team in the MAC, that's going to be a tough opponent for anybody, even outside the MAC, even like a Power 5, Power 4 team. And then they have, after Buffalo, like you said, they have Northern Illinois, and Northern Illinois lost to Buffalo 5-0. And Luke, what are you kind of seeing from that game?
Well, NIU is only 1 slot above OU in the MAC standings right now. So, again, like the last 4, I mean, this is just must win. Like, this would be, I think, the statement win. Say they lose to Buffalo, hurts, but if they can beat this NIU game, maybe they have life. This NIU team is right around them in the standings. They're kind of similar when you look at their win-loss record and conference points. So jumping this NIU team would be huge, and if they lose, I really think that's a signifier that this team just might be done for the year.
Yeah, we look at the top 6 in the MAC tournament right now. We have Western Michigan at 1, Buffalo 2, Kent State 3, Miami 4, Ball State 5, and Bowling Green State 6. It looks like OU's 4-5 points out from the game. So, like you said, they're going to have to win out. And Buffalo and Miami are top 4 teams going down the stretch. So if they lose those 2, they probably. I mean, I feel like if they even lose 1, they're probably not going to do it. Well, that leads us off to our last last segment of the day for OU, and it is our football. The Bobcats are coming off their first bye week of the season, but they are now returning to Peden Stadium for their homecoming game against Northern Illinois. What does this matchup have in store for fans?
So the Ohio Bobcats will welcome the Northern Illinois Huskies into Peden Stadium for a big homecoming matchup, which I'm very excited for. The Bobcats, they're coming fresh off a bye week, have had a week to recover, prepare, make some slight adjustments when needed. And a fun little fact, with NIU heading to the Mountain West, this will mark the last time OU and NIU face off in football as conference opponents. The biggest thing I noticed is the Huskies have struggled this year against MAC opponents specifically. They average about 10 points per game on 157 rushing yards and about 100 passing yards. They're doing all that. They're also giving up 20 points per game to opponents. The Bobcats have 26 points per game on 194 rushing yards and 214 passing yards. So offensively, we should be able to, or they should be able to handle them. If they play like how they did against Ball State, defensively at least, I'd be happy about that. They need to just kind of clean up the offensive side of the ball. We saw a lot of penalties. They put up their worst offensive half of the season 2 weeks ago against Ball State, but they did have that bye week to help kind of clean that up. Special teams hopefully can start to step up or at least start to play a little better. They haven't really been clicking, and I'm hoping that they're starting to work against the trend we've noticed of playing down, especially against opponents that aren't quite at the same level conference-wise. Spread for this game is set at about 10.5 points in OU's favor, so they just need to come out the gate swinging, keep the momentum going for the full time. They can't underestimate this NIU team.
And Jack, I think you said it perfectly. They can't underestimate this team because while they've struggled so far this season, this is the same NIU team that beat Notre Dame last year and was ranked for a week. So again, much like Ball State, they can't take this team for granted. On paper and in the spread, we see how OU is, ranked higher than NIU. But I think this is a turning point in the season because they have to come back strong after last week's or 2 weeks ago's game against Ball State. They're coming off the bye. I think this is a great opportunity to do that.
Now I got a question for the table. If OU wins out, should fans be satisfied with their season?
I think if they win out, yes, because, Ball State was a tough loss. I mean, I think that if they win out and that's the wake-up call they needed to win out, then I'm proud for that. And I'm also just very proud that they played some good Power 4 teams in Rutgers, Ohio State, West Virginia. That's tough for any MAC school. So I'm really glad that they did that this season. And, again, like I said, I think winning out would be I think it's in the cards for them. I think they can do it.
Yeah, I mean, I would call it a success. We have to remember that OU winning out would mean they beat Miami on November 4th in Athens, and when's the last time that OU beat Miami in a regular season game, right? Not for a few years. So I think that alone would be a huge morale boost just for the Bobcat faithful, but to win out from this point would give the Bobcats one MAC loss, and I think that would be a successful season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like they've been they should be winning games, but they are not. Is there somebody that needs to step up either on the defensive line or the offensive attack? Give me a certain person that needs to step up for this OU team?
Honestly, I think it's Jay Crable. I mean, he played a little bit last year. He's started this year. They had Bradley Weaver leave a little this past offseason. So I think someone on that defensive line needs to step up just to get that pressure on the quarterback, and that will cause the mistakes for them to be able to get the ball back to that offense, who has been looking like a high-functioning system right now.
I want to see another receiver step up. Chase Hendricks and Mason Williams have been killing it as targets for Parker Navarro. But after that, it really falls off looking at the numbers. So I'd like to see like Rodney Harris or Rodart or Gossett step up. Just giving Parker Navarro someone else during MAC play, I think is huge, especially if Chase Hendricks continues to be doubled. Mason Williams had 1 catch against Ball State. So really the receiving core in general, I want to see more targets to those guys.
I think pass catchers have to be mentioned here, and they're important. And we've talked about the tight end room on this show too. And like anybody in the tight end room can OU get them involved? And I feel like this should be a super tight end friendly offense that Ohio is running with Navarro's play style. Just think of all those seam routes that can be wide open. And I would like to see the tight ends get a lot more involved, and I think the pass game can open up even more.
Mm-hmm.
Now we see that we got to talk about it. NIU is leaving the MAC. They are going to join the Mountain West. And what are our thoughts? Should OU have kind of like bad blood since they want to leave the MAC? Or just give me your thoughts on just NIU leaving the MAC.
I don't think there should be bad blood. I don't know. I just think with the state of realignment nowadays, people are moving every single year. Next year, I'm actually excited to see the resurgence of the Pac-12 with more teams heading there. So, I think, these teams will still play each other. Like we still see some Pac-12 teams play each other, SEC, Big 12 teams play each other. I don't think there's any bad blood. And I just think realignment and, all the teams are kind of always looking for, maybe they should go to this conference. Maybe we should stay put. So I just think it's part of the game now.
Yeah, I think they're honestly just looking for something that kind of aligns with where they're at. They'll get a little more recognition. I don't think there should be bad blood, but I do think the team should go in and hoping to end out playing them as conference opponents with a big win. That would be, I think, the greatest way to at least for OU, to send them off with a bang. Just be like, all right, here you go. We'll drop 30 on you, and then bye.
Yeah, and it is their OU's homecoming game. So what are our expectations for this game in general? It can be about the crowd, about just anything.
Oh, the vibe is going to be incredible. I mean, the crowd, I'm expecting normally it to be packed. I hope it looks like how the stands looked that WVU game, just as full as we possibly can fill Peden. Just get everybody hyped, yelling, screaming, make it a little more of a hostile playing environment for NIU. I think would be incredible. And I mean that's what you want from a homecoming game.
And I'd also like to see penalties get rounded out. Jack, I know you made a note of that here. Looking at all these last couple of games, 90 penalty yards against Ball State, West Virginia 68. I'd really like to see penalties be kind of, I guess, a non-factor for this team almost. I'd like to see them kind of play cleaner football, especially in this home game. Don't let NIU come in and rattle them. I don't know. I'm really intrigued to see how this team performs this week, just coming off of Ball State in the bye week. And I think this week will be a good week to show what they've done.
Now, done with college football. Let's go to the MLB. The MLB playoffs are now in the AL and NLCS Championship Series, and we are down to 4 teams competing for the World Series. We got the Mariners against the Blue Jays and Dodgers against the Brewers. Quickly, give us a rundown from what we've seen in each series so far.
Yeah, so ALCS, we have Blue Jays, Mariners. Mariners are up 2-0 in the series, and they're coming home for Game 3 tonight. Game 1, George Springer homered off the first pitch from Bryce Miller to put the Blue Jays up 1-0. The rest of the game, one hit for Toronto. Bryce Miller pitched an absolute gem. Amazing outing on the mound from him. But all of the Seattle pitchers, namely Miller, Gabe Spear, and Matt Rash, they combined, the 3 of them, threw 100 pitches total, all game, all 9 innings. Cal Raleigh, homer, top of the 6th, because who else? We have come to expect this. He's a basher. He is a beast. And then 2 RBI singles from Jorge Polanco, and I'll talk about him some more in Game 2. Mariners take Game 2, 10-3, away in the Blue Jays' place. J-Rod, Julio Rodriguez, homer to put the Mariners up 3-0 before the Blue Jays even recorded an out. A couple of errors, a couple of singles, 2 singles from Nathan Lukes over the next couple innings. The Blue Jays are able to even it 3-3 after the 2nd inning. But Polanco, 3-run homer in the 5th inning, and that put Seattle up for good. They had 10 runs on 10 hits that game, 3 homers for the Mariners. They had a pretty decent pitching game. Edward Bizzardo got the win for that one. They used 4 pitchers that game to give up only 3 runs in what was a pretty successful defensive outing as well.
Yeah, and Game 3 is tonight. Now, Simon, after 2 losses, the Blue Jays are down 2-0 in the series. They lost 3-1 and 10-3, like you just said. What can the Blue Jays do to kind of bounce back from these 2 losses?
Okay, so right off the bat, I'm just a little worried because those were 2 losses at home, and now you're going to Seattle to play the next 2, right? But thinking about what the Blue Jays need to do, their offense has to get it going. I mean, they averaged 8.5 runs per game in the ALDS against the Yankees, and now the middle of their order is doing nothing. Namely, Vlad Guerrero Jr. Where have you been? He has just not shown up this series, and this is huge because the Blue Jays don't have Bo Bichette, and that is a big loss. But it's not like they lost him right before the playoffs. Like, they had some time to figure out how they're going to have to win games without their best offensive weapon, and they were able to do it against the Yankees. They have not done it against the Mariners, and I also need to see this Blue Jays bullpen step up. These starting pitchers, games 1 and 2, both left the game tied, and the bullpens have just absolutely punted these last couple of games, and obviously no offense does not help the pressure you're feeling as a pitcher, but they have got to play with some depth there from the bullpen and play with some urgency.
Yeah, now we have to switch up to the NLCS. We've seen the Brewers beat the Cubs in the NLDS, and then we also seen the Dodgers beat the Phillies. And now they're facing each other. Tell us about those.
Okay, so similar thing here. Dodgers are up 2-0 in the series, both of those away games 1 and 2. So game 1, Blake Snell played out of his mind. 8 innings pitched, 1 hit given up. No earned runs, 10 strikeouts, and did not walk a single guy. Like that, I mean, you cannot get any better than that unless you're throwing a no-hitter for the whole game. Like, that is just incredible. Freddie Freeman got the scoring started with the solo shot in the 6th, and LA eventually had another run get walked in, and we'll see from this team, like, there's nobody that is just like the guy so far for the Dodgers that's like our offense has to come through him, but really everybody is just kind of getting involved. And in the 9th inning in this one, Milwaukee had runners on 2nd and 3rd with 1 out, got one of those runs home, and then they had bases loaded with 2 outs, opportunity to walk this game off, and they were only able to get 1 run across with all 4 of those base runners that inning, which I'm sure left a sour taste in their mouth for game 1. And then game 2, Dodgers take that one 5-1. Jackson Chourio homered off of the first pitch he saw from the Dodgers Yamamoto to put the Brewers up 1-0. But then again, incredible pitching performance from the Dodgers. He went for the complete game, Yamamoto did. He gave up 3 hits. That home run was the only run he gave up, and he did it all on 111 pitches. But Max Muncy, Teoscar Hernandez, both homered in this game for LA, and this is what I'm talking about. Like, the Dodgers are just kind of spreading the love around, and it is really paying off. They're leaving Milwaukee with 2 wins, coming back to their place, and they're feeling good about where they're at because their whole team is just kind of playing good team ball right now.
Yeah, and on paper, it feels like the Dodgers have been just way better than everybody else. But then you look at the records. I mean, the Brewers have had the best record in the MLB this year. And I feel like what's the key for the Brewers to come back in this series?
So, again, it's going to be pitching for Milwaukee. They came into this series with maybe 3 starters on their roster, and we don't even know who's going to pitch tomorrow. It hasn't been announced. I'm expecting it to be Jose Quintana because he is the only starter they haven't really used this series. But, I mean, the Brewers had to bullpen their way through the NLDS against the Cubs. They barely got out of that one in 5 games, and they came into the championship series with, again, only those 3 guys and a tired bullpen. They only had 2 games in between Game 5 and then Game 1 of the CS. So their defense, their pitching, namely, has to step up. Their bullpen has to just will themselves to win, honestly, because they are tired. They're running out of steam, and that's not going to change as the series goes on, but they're going to have to make a difference.
Now, do you think that this is kind of already predetermined, like Dodgers and the Mariners in the World Series, or do you think a team could have the chance to come back?
Oh man, from the way I'm looking at it, I feel like it's kind of locked already. Especially just because both of these teams, the Dodgers and the Mariners, have just swept those homestands. They've taken both games as the away team, and sure, like let's make the argument that the other teams could totally do that now as they become the away teams, but that's just not how the sport works. That's not what we've come to know about home field advantage. I think it's real still, and I can't really see another matchup other than Mariners-Dodgers.
And Simon, I want the Mariners to win so bad.
Oh, yeah.
The Dodgers, they feel like they've got all the stars, all the money. I don't know. I would love to see Mariners win. They've never made a World Series and never won a World Series. So this would be a great storyline for this team to, beat the Blue Jays, go and beat the Dodgers, who are one of the best, sports franchises, period. So getting that as your first World Series win, that would be so awesome.
Yeah, and the Mariners chasing their first World Series appearance and win, going up 2-0, and then the Dodgers looking for back-to-back World Series championships. Now we're going to the next segment. We've had a crazy week of college football. We saw 2 teams in the top 10 lose in a bunch of close games. Reece, talk to us.
College football this week was on the better end, I will say. We had OSU Illinois fighting out for the Illabuck, and then OSU in that game just kind of ran away with it. Both top 25 teams, it should have been a lot closer than it seemed. Illinois, they got a little bit of some garbage time points, I would say. OSU fans did see a little bit of a scare with Jeremiah Smith getting hurt. I mean, he did come back 3 plays later, so shouldn't be too much of a worry there. But at the same time, he's probably the best college football player right now, so there should be probably a little bit of worry there as well. It was like lower back or like neck area. I'm not too sure on that. And then we had Alabama, Missouri, really close game. Ty Simpson just keeps on proving to why he is the best quarterback in the nation. I would say he's probably up there for the Heisman.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 touchdowns this game against Missouri, and then probably was a little bit too close for comfort for the Tide. Probably have to clean up a few things here and there if they really want to control the SEC for the rest of the year. On the other hand, though, a really good quality loss for Missouri. It was a 3-point game. It came down to the last play. So, and then they have another road test for Auburn this week, and I think that if they can win, they should be able to be up there for the SEC championship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm really impressed with the way Missouri played in this game. There were a couple times where they really just could have kind of rolled over and died, but they were able to fight back and make this a close game. I believe it was 10 points, maybe as close as 1 score in the fourth there. And, for an Alabama team that I went on the record a few weeks ago now and said that they were gone. They're not. I mean, they're still here, but Missouri is legit. I think I don't know if they had business being ranked 14th in the country, but they are not an opponent to be taken lightly, and they did prove that against Alabama.
Yeah, and this was also just a big win for Bama too, because Bo Perbula, quarterback for Missouri, he's been playing really well this season. He was at Penn State, transferred obviously because of Drew Aller, but he's been kind of lighting it up. And so this was an impressive showing for Alabama, both offense and defense, that they were able to kind of bottle this Missouri team and still score on arguably one of the better defenses in the country, just statistically in the Tigers in Missouri.
Yeah, and Reece, we have to talk about it too. There was a top 10 showdown in Eugene, and we were I feel like a lot of people were counting out one team. What do you got for us?
That's Indiana, Oregon. I mean, Indiana went into Eugene this week, and that defense absolutely stepped up. 6 sacks, 2 interceptions on arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten. So, Oregon, they're coming off what should have been a good win against Penn State. Probably not now with how Penn State did play against UCLA. And then they also had a bye week, but then they couldn't deliver on, this Indiana team. Should that be a worry for, Dan Lanning and the Oregon team? I don't know. I mean, anyone else have any thoughts?
I've got some thoughts on Indiana. I mean, Fernando Mendoza, there's been a lot of quarterback, questions, just mock draft and stuff this year. He's kind of proving to be that QB1 in this NFL draft. And his guy, Elijah Surratt, 8 for 121 and a touchdown against Oregon. This Oregon offense and defense, too, has been really good. And Curtis Rourke, he made the change for the Hoosiers, man. They're a good football program now.
And I feel like we have to just talk about, like, okay, this game was not played like a 30-20 game. Indiana went in and beat up on Oregon. They don't lose in Autzen, and they lost at home. They got beat up on it. It was not super close. And I'm just thinking, like, when are we going to start giving Indiana the benefit of the doubt? When are we going to start giving them the credit they deserve? Because they're ranked 7th coming into this game, and everybody thought they were going to roll over and die, right? But imagine if that was Ohio State in that position, and Ohio State just beat Oregon 30-20 in the way that they did. Mm-hmm. Ohio State's a national champion. We're crowning them right now. I think Indiana is certainly a top 3 team in the country, and they're where they belong now, but I would argue that they could be in that number 2 spot. They are the real deal, and they need to get recognition.
Yeah,
I mean, talking about recognition. Sorry, Jamie, but I mean, on the AP poll this week, Indiana had 3 first-place votes. Wow. I mean, is it safe to say that they might be here to stay with the top dogs, or is this just like a good year for Indiana?
I think they will. I think this is these last 2 years for Indiana have really kind of turned the tide for them, And the Big Ten is getting harder. You have Oregon, USC, Washington, UCLA, all these schools from out west now. So it's getting harder, and they're proving to be some of the top teams in the nation. So they're playing really good ball.
Now, with that win, Indiana has improved to undefeated, and Ohio State is also undefeated. So with the rest of the schedule left, Ohio State and Indiana have 0 ranked opponents. Is the Big Ten championship already predetermined?
I wouldn't say so, no. I feel like if Oregon can win out, Indiana, they could drop another game. I don't see them dropping another game, but, they could because, this is college football we're talking about. Anything can happen. Mm-hmm. But, I think Oregon should still be in that conversation. OSU, who knows what they can do. Yeah. They're looking really powerful. Mm-hmm. Carnell Tate's coming, really starting to strive. You still have Jamey Spears, obviously. You have probably like a 3-headed monster at running back with James Peoples, Bo Jackson, and C.J. Donaldson. Yeah. So, I think this Big Ten Conference Championship is up for grabs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of ranked opponents or ranked matchups this week. First, we got to talk about USC at Notre Dame. We have Utah at BYU. And then we also have 3 ranked SEC matchups. LSU versus Vanderbilt, Ole Miss in Georgia, and Tennessee at Alabama. That sounds like an amazing slate for college football. What do you got for us?
USC is traveling all the way to South Bend, playing Notre Dame for the Jules Shillelagh. This game could be a toss-up. USC, they're starting to fight back. They're starting to get good again. And then, you have Notre Dame. They dropped 2 games this year to pretty good teams. So I feel like this could be a toss-up, and I feel like whoever loses might drop out of that top 25.
And whoever loses this is out for the playoffs as well. Mm-hmm. This has huge playoff implications.
And then you have the Holy War, Utah at BYU. This is the first ranked matchup since 2009. And then, obviously, they're both in the Big 12 now, so this could shake up the Big 12 since it is a conference game.
Mm-hmm. Jamie loves the Big 12.
I do love the Big 12, but we have to talk about the SEC. Which of these 3 matchups, LSU versus Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, which of these 3 are you guys most excited about?
Honestly, Ole Miss, Georgia. I think this is the game, compared to the other 3, that it really kind of solidifies who stays at the top. Ole Miss, they've been in some close games. Obviously, they're 5th in the nation, so they're playing like it. But, if Ole Miss can beat this 9 Georgia team led by Kirby Smart, good Lord. What a turnaround. They lost Jackson Dart, but Trinidad Chambliss, he's been balling for Ole Miss. So that'd be a huge win for them. And if Georgia could win, Georgia's right back up there with Bama.
Yeah, Georgia will win. I think... I've kind of wrapped that one up in my head, but What's really interesting to me is the LSU Vanderbilt game. Not because I think these are great teams. I think we don't know how legit LSU actually is. And I think Vandy's super illegitimate. They should not be ranked 17th. But LSU's being propped up by that Clemson win, which is no longer good. So this is going to tell us a lot about them, I think.
Yeah, and we have a big time matchups between those three SEC opponents, but we're going to stick to college football, but go to a new segment, which is Read and React, where we will react to the biggest news and headlines across the sports. The first headline, Penn State fired James Franklin. The buyout looks to be right around that $45 million. Where do you guys think he will end up, and who are the best coaches to fill that spot?
I think he's going to stick with coaching. He is fairly young still to be a head coach. I've heard Michigan State get thrown around. I've also heard UCLA get thrown around. And then to fill that spot, I think Dan Mullen, what he's been doing at UCLA, granted this is his first year, I feel like he could probably step into a Power 4 school and take it over and bring Penn State to what they should have been this year.
I agree with you, Reece. I think James Franklin will probably end up staying in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
It feels like there's a couple of jobs that would be a good fit for him there. I think there's a few legit options for who will get this Penn State spot. It's going to be the best job in the nation after when the coaching carousel comes around. But I mean, if they really want to take a shot, I think they could go for Kurt Zanetti. And I think this goes back to the question of, is Andy here to stay?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how willing would he be to take a Penn State job, right? Mm-hmm. But where my mind is really at right now, what about the idea of Matt Rule for that Penn State job? I mean, he's starting to win at Nebraska in a place where it's been historically hard to win for the last couple decades, right? And he is a Penn State guy. He's a Pennsylvania guy through and through. I feel like he's a good fit there.
I heard James Franklin to Virginia Tech, but
I heard that one too.
That's just me, and I think Coach Kurt Zanetti will probably take that Penn State job. But we have to go to probably one of my favorite sports, the WNBA. But Las Vegas Aces won their third title in 4 years, sweeping the Mercury 4-0 in the WNBA Finals. Are they on the brink to be one of the WNBA's best dynasties?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the Aces are always up there. You know, it feels like every season they've always got at least 2 or 3 All-Stars on there. Asia Wilson, she just dominates. Like, she's putting up MVP numbers every season. And it's such a good, well-run team, such good coaching, such great players. I mean, they're sneakily a quiet dynasty, I think, Jamey.
Yeah, and the Aces just won their third title in 4 years. The NBA is missing that dynasty piece where we can see that with the WNBA. Is that something we need to see again in the NBA?
No. I think the era of dynasties is over. But the one thing I am kind of worried about is the CBA, which is something we've seen with the NBA where it awards teams for drafting well. You know, it kind of discourages the idea of dynasties or super teams. But the thing that I don't love about it is teams that draft well, like the Thunder or Cavs, you know, they're going to have to pay all of the guys they draft. And if they draft well, that's a lot of money they got to dish out.
I don't know. I might have to disagree with you there.
Really?
Wow.
I think as of right now in the NBA, the widespread talent coming into the league makes it hard to form a dynasty. But I'm not going to lie. I kind of like the aspect of it and giving an entire conference or like an entire half, you know, like you'll have the entire Eastern Conference rooting against one specific team. I think it just creates a very fun dynamic and a lot of the teams butt heads and the fan bases especially butt heads, and I think with a dynasty there they can kind of turn that to a common opponent. I think it creates a lot of storylines through it. I don't know. I kind of like having dynasties, but I see and I can completely understand why people don't and why it's not happening in the NBA anymore.
Yeah, and Luke mentioned it. The CBA, Marcus Thompson believes that this WNBA offseason will be compelling due to the fact that the WNBA's new collective bargaining agreement will be historic. Only 20% of the league has a contract because players were told by their agents to wait for new CBA. Could there be a lockout in the WNBA next season, or could the CBA propel the WNBA?
I mean, we've seen a lot of eyes turn recently. We've seen a massive boom in attention on the WNBA. And I think the biggest thing there is the players have been very vocal about the fact that they don't believe that they're getting paid enough. And I think if this helps that, that's definitely good for them. I mean, they deserve more money. It's still a professional sports league, but you'll see a 4-year, $300 million contract in the NBA and nothing even remotely near that. The Supermax is like $250,000, which is so different that I feel like start giving them, especially with all the attention on them, the media on them, they deserve a little more money, I believe.
And I think they will get paid with the CBA, because I think the WNBA will recognize that they have never had this many eyes on their sport before, right? And they don't want to let that slip. That, not saying that it is a window, but if you're the league, you can't look at this expanded reviews and eyes on the game and be like, well, we're just going to let this window close without paying our players. And I don't think it will take a lockout for that to happen, just because of the way that the game has grown in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and it has grown tremendously. And that leads us to our last headline of the day. NFL suspends Lions' Brian Branch 1 game for post-altercations versus the Chiefs. Branch has been fined over a dozen times since he's been in the league. What are you guys' reactions to this?
I just think it's fun. I think it's so funny. I saw the crash out or his reaction to Juju after the game. I saw just on Twitter, like, Lions fans were saying, like, oh, like, Branch was, like, grabbed by a lineman, like, he was kind of fired up. I don't know. I just think he's got to watch out. But especially, it's like a Draymond effect. If you're getting fined or ejected that many times, I think you got to lock it in. Like, adrenaline can be so rampant, and, sometimes, a guy could get in your face, and you just want to, like, I don't know, push him on the ground. But I don't know. Brian Branch, he's got to lock it in, bro.
I agree. I think it's just kind of humorous, but also, like, this is a real sport. This is not the WWE where we have heels, right? Like do what you're supposed to do. You're getting paid to do what you're supposed to do. Just lock in.
Yeah, I mean, I get the aggressiveness and the physicality of the sport can lead to adrenaline spiking and something like that happening, but I mean, you've been fined over a dozen times for things like that. At some point, I feel like you have to take a look and maybe try scaling it back. I mean, he did say after the game that he never should have done it, and it was a childish thing.
Yeah.
Which is at least, I mean, it's nice to at least get that because, yeah, it's an apology for it. But against the Packers last month, he was fined $23,000 for face mask. Pretty much face mask and unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. There's a trend here. I think at some point, if he can't get it under control, the Lions are going to do something about it and be like, hey, you need to stop this. Like, it's costing us. It's costing you. Just keep it about the game. Keep it under wraps. Wait till we get back to the locker room to let out any, like, anger you have, anything like that, rather than directing it at someone else.
Yeah, and speaking of the NFL, that is our next topic. Luke, how did last week in the NFL turn out?
Last week, there were a lot of great games. Ohio teams had their games. There were a lot of big games, but we can start with the Ohio teams. Let's start with your Bengals, Jamey. I don't think they played that bad. Compared to some of the other games against, like, the Broncos and the Lions, I think this was a good game for them. I think, Joe Flacco came in, like, midway through the week. He new game plan, new faces, and I thought he played pretty well. I liked seeing him. I liked that he kind of had more targets than Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, kind of opened up the passing game that was kind of faltering under Jake Browning. I think he did a really great job. Jamar Chase had a great game. We all know that 4th and 5, Chase made that Madden catch for that touchdown to put the Bengals back into the game. They just couldn't close it out, but I still think there's something positive to take away from this game. I think they played hard against the top NFC contender, and I don't know, Jamey, what are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, I think this is the most complete game they've played since Burrow got injured. I think that Jaguars game, I mean, it kind of got injured like halfway through the second quarter, so I wouldn't count that game. I know they won that game, but I feel like with the Packers have been one of the most dominant teams this year, in my opinion. I know they've tied to the Cowboys in lost to the Browns, which I don't know how, but I feel like they've been really complete, both sides of the ball. Luke, then we go to Cleveland and Pittsburgh, kind of like the typical AFC North game, close and ugly. Tell us about it.
23-9 Pittsburgh. I describe Cleveland-Pittsburgh as the Cam Scadaboo of football games. I don't know, Simon, Jack, what are your thoughts on this one?
I woke up Monday still mad.
Okay.
Yeah.
I woke
how
up
those
Monday
games are gonna
morning
go.
still mad. It just was a horrible offensive look from the Browns.
Yeah.
Nothing worked. The receivers were dropping balls left and right. They couldn't hold on to it seemed like they couldn't hold on to anything. I mean, and then there was the play. I keep getting visions of it. Isaiah Bond, quick slant route, doesn't look. Ball hits him in the side of the head. I think that sums up this whole season. The receivers weren't able or weren't holding onto the ball quite well. So I'm just confused at, okay, this is happening. We have Quinshon Judkins. We've got this backfield of Judkins, Sampson, Ford. Let's let Dylan Gabriel throw 52 times.
my goodness. Yeah.
I
52
cannot
times.
understand it. I've tried all week to wrap my head around why, besides just let's see what Gabriel can do, and I've got nothing. Our O-line is always injured.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not
Always injured.
they're not at that level. He's got to get the ball out quick. Our receivers can't hold on to anything. Our run game has shown to be good, and you decide that this is the week to go all in on an air attack.
Jack, thank you for articulating that in a much more noble manner than I think I would have. I honestly want to stop caring about this team, but when you're playing the Steelers, that's the only game that I have to care about. But then more importantly, it's give Shedeur a chance,
Yeah.
please.
Oh my gosh, I'm
I
waiting.
am so sick of watching a 52 attempt Dylan Gabriel go out there and put up 9 points on the scoreboard. Just give the kid a chance.
Yeah, I feel like if Gabriel keeps playing at the way he has been, we will see Shedeur take the field at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with them not doing it or them not playing him this game just because Dylan Gabriel was sacked 6 times.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to throw him in mid-game. He's not prepared to start as he could be, and then you're just going to let him get abused behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, you can't do that. You're going to get him hurt. It was just a rough showing for them. Honestly, I do think if they keep going at the rate they have been, there's a chance that we see a Stefanski firing just because the offense is looking so sloppy.
Now, Luke, we had a bunch of different big games. I know both Ohio teams lost, but quickly run us through what happened between all the other big games in the NFL.
Yeah, quick big game recap. I guess I'll start, in order of how they happened on Sunday. We had some great games in the earlier slots. Carolina-Dallas, that was a great game. Rico Dowdle, he's been balling. He's very likely going to steal Chuba Hubbard's starting spot. He's been lighting up that offense. I love what I'm seeing from Bryce Young. I'm a big Bryce Young defender. I want to see him succeed, and he's been really putting it together, especially against the Dallas team that has, they played against the Packers, so they've been proven. On Monday night, we had the Bears-Commanders. The Bears got their get back. Caleb Williams looked really good. DeAndre Swift ran all over the Commanders for 100-plus yards. The Commanders, Jaden Daniels, he had a good game statistically, but it just looked like there's some stuff missing there. This was a team a lot of people thought were going to be some a big contender this year, especially after they performed last year in the playoffs. But like I said back in August when we kind of talked about the McLaurin contract, this is a depth room with receivers that the Commanders are just lacking in. They have Deebo Samuel, but McLaurin and Noah Brown were both hurt, so it just didn't really give Jaden Daniels any guy to go through. So I'm interested to see what the Commanders can do these next couple weeks, if they can get back into that, contender and, playoffy status. But, the Bears could be on the rise. This is a big game for them.
I will say I do think Terry McLaurin is eyeing a Week 7 return, which would be upcoming, which would be a huge help for this Commanders team because I agree. They need some more receiving depth.
And speaking of huge, that Chiefs-Lions game on Sunday, that was a crazy game. I was kind of a little bit surprised going into that the Chiefs were favored 2.5, given how they've played this season, how the Lions have played. But, as soon as that game started, I knew exactly why. The Chiefs just looked like the better team for a lot of that game. They played arguably their most complete game all season. Mahomes can show he can get it done against any given Sunday. you can never count this Chiefs team out. When you have Mahomes at the helm, Andy Reid at the coaching, I mean, this team just doesn't back down.
Now, the two final teams to be undefeated were old-time Shane Scalfaro's Eagles and the Bills, and now I just feel like there's been a lot of issues between those teams. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, what I love about this season so far, and this is just a kind of a broader scope, but I love how there's no clear-cut, favorite right now. I was doing my weekly power rankings, and it was tough once I got to literally above 20, because those 1 through 20, like any week, any of those teams can play spoiler. And especially once you get to that top 10 range, I mean, those all the contending teams at the top, they have weaknesses and they have a lot of strengths on their team. But again, any week, any of these teams can lose to each other.
Yeah, I mean, we're 7 weeks in, and I still don't think I can say with consistency who is a great team and who is a bad team. Mm-hmm. They switch it up on any given day. I mean, the Giants looked good against that game. That Jackson Dart, Cam Scadaboo lineup, those two have been changing it for them. But then also I know consistently that the Eagles are good and can play good football. They're just I think they're just trying to figure some things out. That pass game has been a little iffy for them this year. Now
we have to turn to this week. We have 2 winnable games for Ohio. We have the Steelers at the Bengals. It is supposed to be an all-white Bengals game.
Ooh, okay.
And then we have the Dolphins at the Browns. The Dolphins are a couple bad losses away from moving on from Mike Daniels. What are our thoughts at the table right now?
I think this is a big game for the Browns. These are 2 teams that have not played the best this season. 2 coaches arguably on the hot seat. I think this is a big game for them. I think if Dylan Gabriel has a less than poor performance, I would love to see Shedeur in there. I really don't love I don't know. They don't really seem to attach to Shedeur, which I don't really like because I feel like this is a team that could really benefit from a leader and just a young guy right now.
Yeah, I really don't like that you called this a winnable game for the Browns just because I don't know if I believe that. But, yeah.
They are favorited.
Well, and
surprisingly.
And do they belong as a favorite ever? That's a conversation we can have another day. But yeah, I think to your point, Luke, it's like if I don't see a Shedeur snap in this game and Gabriel is not having a great game, I'm at the point where it's like, okay, what do you have to lose at this point? Especially if there's a matchup to do it in, this is the one. Mm-hmm. I'm hopeful for a Browns win and a Shedeur sighting. Not confident that either of those will happen.
Yeah.
If they don't start him soon, it'll be against the Jets coming back from the bye week.
Oh, brother.
Now we have another important previews. We have LA Rams at Jags, or versus the Jags in London. We have the Colts versus Chargers, which is going to be a great matchup that we're going to see the 2 teams in the AFC West and the AFC South compete. We have the Eagles versus Vikings, and then we have the Lions versus Buccaneers with, I think, the front runner and the MVP, Buccaneers. Luke, what's your favorite game out of those?
You just said it, Jamie. The Lions-Bucks game. I'm so excited. The Bucks are looking like a top 5 team right now. There's some cases they could be one of the best teams in the NFL right now. I think if they beat the Lions in this Monday night, we have to have some conversations about them being that team to beat this year.
Yeah, we're going to see, I think, once again, the MVP frontrunner, Baker Mayfield, take the field against the Lions. Now we move on to our final segment. It's Upset Watch. We will pick our favorite underdog for this week across all sports. Last week we went 1-4 with Connor picking Northwestern over Penn State, which I think everybody at the table thought was crazy.
He knew what he was doing.
But Simon, let's start out with you. What's your Upset Watch?
I would love to start. I've got Washington over Michigan in college football this Saturday. Washington is 6.5-point underdogs. They are probably the quietest 5-1 team in the country. I mean, I think they're the real deal, and Damon Williams is the real deal. He is a real playmaker. But more so, Michigan. Michigan just lost a game to USC, which was a big statement for USC. But Michigan's whole brand is, we're going to be more physical than you. We're going to come in and pound you and hit you in the mouth. And they just lost to USC in a Big Ten way. Like, that's the first time USC has not just, like, done it through the air. And Bryce Underwood not playing very well. I know you're a big Bryce Underwood lover, Jamie, but I don't see them winning this game.
Yeah, and most people think Washington should be ranked, and I agree with them. Now, Reese, let's keep the college football track. Who do you have for this week?
So, Simon, you talked about it earlier. You think Georgia's winning against Ole Miss. I have Ole Miss over Georgia. I think the Rebels can walk into Athens, Georgia, and take over Stanford Stadium and come out with the win. They are 7.5-point underdogs, but I don't really think that matters. I mean, they have Trinidad. I mean, I'm huge on Trinidad. You know, coming from D2 all the way to D1, and now he's starting for a top 5 team. I think he can get it done.
Now let's move up to the NFL. Jack, who do you got?
We just talked about the game. I've got the Buccaneers, 5.5-point underdogs over the Lions. The Lions are losing Brian Branch. They're down Terry and Arnold. I mean, that defense is riddled with injuries, which you can say about the Bucs offense. However, Godwin and Egbuka are questionable, but Godwin's believed to be eyeing a Week 7 return. And I think if they get either one of them with how Baker's been playing, I think they could easily beat up on a weakened Lions defense to take a win there. And I think next week we'll be having that conversation about Tampa Bay.
Yeah, it feels like they both have injuries. Bucky Irving has also been out for the Buccaneers. Now for our last upset watch. Saved the best category for last, NBA. Luke, what do you got?
Curveball with the NBA. This should show you how long the offseason was and how excited I am for basketball. I got the Rockets beating the Thunder, playing spoiler on banner night. Rockets have played 3-0 in preseason. I know that doesn't really mean much since like the Cavs are 0-3 right now, I think. But I really like what the Rockets are building. I'm really excited to see Kevin Durant, debut with this team in the regular season. I think their young guys are going to take a leap. Sengun might take that next step, and I think they could take this Thunder team down.
Guys, let's go 4 for 4 today.
There we go.
And finally is our weekly awards where we decide the SportsBeat game and player of the week. Our game of the week is, of course, Ohio football's matchup against Northern Illinois, the homecoming matchup this Saturday. It will be packed with a lot of fans in the stands, and those fans should be excited to see how the Bobcats bounce back from their loss at Ball State. Now our player of the week, Kendall White, goes back-to-back for our SportsBeat player of the week with 94 assists against Miami and recorded 26 digs in just 2 games. She recorded 90% of the team's total assists this past weekend. Congrats to her. Thank you for listening to SportsBeat on WOUB. I'm your host, Jamey Spears, and with me today,
Reece Merkel.
Jack Zwiezinski.
Simon Lupfer.
And Luke Schmitt.
you can listen to us on 1340 AM radio at 9 p.m. or search us online at woub.org/listen, SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Don't forget, you can also follow us on Instagram at SportsBeatWOUB for more digital content. We'll see you next week. This has been SportsBeat.